So this is the Infinite Investment Game, and I'm going to be showing you part 4 of my talk with sports cards once again. And I'm going to have probably 3 or 4 more parts coming out in the next few days. So please watch, and please like and comment and subscribe.
People could reflect back and maybe, Jokic and Embiid do become more important, when people are thinking about, the change, because now we can see that Curry came in and changed the way the league worked. Will we say that in another few years and look back and see this slight change happening with Jokic and Embiid? I don't necessarily want to say yes, but it's just something interesting to think about, Who
Yeah.
knows what the league's going to look like?
Also, there are a couple things that go through my mind. Like players that end up in the all-time great list in the top 15, none of them are under 6'5" except Steph Curry. And that's because he's the greatest shooter ever existed.
Yeah, he's unique.
So it's one of those things where I guess if people are trying to do long-term, that's something that people should think about, especially if they're trying to buy Trae Young or Ja Morant, guys like that. Unless they are like shooting like Steph Curry, or they have some kind of skill set that's like almost unstoppable. But it's not that, just that. It's also, I think, is the situation. Like the guys that people collect who've had amazing careers. I guess Tim Duncan is exception. But Kobe Bryant, he had the luxury of playing with Shaq, who was basically MVP or best player in the league. Right? That's similar to maybe like a Luka playing with Giannis.
Unfair.
Yeah, same with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like Kareem was basically like the best player in the league, and then Magic Johnson got to that team, and Magic Johnson wasn't even Rookie of the Year that year. It was like Larry Bird. So you have that. People talk about how great Bill Russell was, but he played with Bob Cousy, who was like the first ever MVP of the league. And then everybody else was pretty much all stars or went to all NBA teams on his team, pretty much. Like people coming off the bench who are like all stars. So like his
early
team,
super teams.
Super early super teams. Other pairings, I guess like LeBron with Dwayne Wade, when he actually started winning at championships, or even just at the time, like when Kobe Bryant won, like without Shaq, like at the time, Andrew Bynum was probably one of the top 3 centers in the league. Paul Gasol, probably top 15 player in the league at the time. So, a lot of people win championships, they're in really, really great situations. And they're normally playing with great players. The only exception is probably Dirk.
Yeah, I was going to say Dirk.
Jason Kidd was old. And then the other person was probably Hakeem Olajuwon.
Took his opportunity during the Jordan retirement.
Yeah. And then outside of that, I mean, even Tim Duncan, he started out playing with David Robinson.
Yeah.
Who's an MVP. And so it's Steph Curry, I mean, playing with probably the second greatest shooter ever played the game. And then at the time when they were going through their first run, I mean, ESPN had Klay Thompson is probably like the second best shooting guard in the league. And then also, Draymond Green was like number 10th best player in the league, I guess. And then he ended up getting Kevin Durant for 2 years.
Yeah.
And winning championships.
Yeah.
And then, you just keep going on. Larry Bird, like Kevin McHale at one point was like the best power forward in the league. And you got another Hall of Fame center on your team, Robert Parrish. So it's one of those things where you have to be in a really great situation.
Yeah.
And playing with other great players. That's why LeBron struggles so much. So when people are buying these young players, it's like, cool, but who else are they with? Because they can be amazing all they want. And maybe they luck up and get one championship. but they're not going to have, you know, multiple champs, especially in the modern era. Like, you probably need to have like 3 championships before people consider you in the top 15 all time.
Hmm. You know, it's interesting. I feel like basketball, like it's a team sport in a deeper way than the other major sports. You know, I feel like with baseball, you know, the main thing happening is the batter and the pitcher facing off in a one-on-one battle. Most of the game is a one-on-one battle. In football, of course, you know, you have better quarterbacks and better different lines. But if you have a mediocre quarterback and like an excellent offensive line that nobody knows the name of, you can be an excellent team. But in basketball, I feel like there's the subtlety to the teamwork, you know, that you know, like you look at somebody like Draymond Green, for example. You know, you look at his stats or whatever, nothing jumps off the page. It doesn't look that special. But because of the context of the people on his team and how he works in connection with all of them, it creates a situation that just, you know, that brings out the best in him, you know, and that everybody else can really, you know, who knows what, if he, you know, you were saying before that at one point he was considered maybe a top 10 player in the league or something like that. I don't know if I thought he was ever that high, but at the same point, you know, if he was over on Minnesota Timberwolves or something, he'd probably be like a role player that you wouldn't really notice that much, you know, but he got on a team that his strengths could really be brought out. So you never know, you never know what that is going to be, who's going to be able to do that. But the thing within the sports card market is you don't necessarily need to, because you need to find the people who transcend all of that, you know, that it doesn't matter what their context is, and they will, you know, they will do something amazing. I mean, Luka was pretty amazing, you know, this playoffs. He doesn't have a whole lot of support on his team in the way he can pull a whole team. Giannis can pull a whole team. Curry can pull a whole team. You know, LeBron often in the past, I mean, he's 37, 38 now, but you know, he's been able to pull a whole team. You know, these players can transcend that, and they have a much, you know, within the sports card hobby, I think those are the kinds of names that have the potential for more long-term relevance, you know. So I don't think somebody like James Harden has never proven he's great. I mean, he also in some ways did change certain aspects of the game in very fundamental ways, but you know, he's never been able to pull a whole team. You know, he needs the right situation. He needs the perfect situation in order to make it all work out. You know, Russell Westbrook, you know, similar, you know, MVP, you know, amazing player, one of the most dynamic, you know, explosive athletes of the last, you know, of this generation of basketball. But you know, he's not somebody who can transcend what his, you know, he needs the right situation in order to really be brought out. So I don't feel like those kind of players tend to be the players that hold long-term relevance. I mean, there's a lot of them. If you look back, you know, there's a lot of players who were really, really excellent, but just, you know, Clyde Drexler, you know, on my Blazers when I was growing up, amazing, probably the second best shooting guard in the league for a very long time. And if Jordan hadn't been around, he'd probably be seen as like the shooting guard, the main shooting guard, like before Kobe Bryant or whatever. But in the hobby, he's kind of ignored, and it's just because he wasn't quite at that level to be able to transcend everything else going around to pull your team into excellence constantly. And I feel like there's so many players who are in that kind of category nowadays.
I